And let me just summarize by going over why this particular situation with COVID, combined with the protests, of course, is so dangerous. The suddenness of the COVID, the bottom fell out of our whole economy in the space of less than a week in the middle of March. Around March 11th, as I remember, was so sudden, and nobody, generally businesses didn't imagine this could even happen. But the unprecedented exponential spread, combined with the extreme range of outcomes where most people may think they're okay, but where enough people get critically ill that hospitals get overwhelmed anyway. And we just didn't see that this could happen. There's a new moral paradigm with unprecedented accountability for others. That's the mask issue, and merely the fact that if you go out to bars and everything, and you may not get very sick yourself, but you may give it to other people who are a lot more vulnerable than you. And all of a sudden, we didn't used to be responsible to people who were less fortunate medically than we are in public, and except maybe within our own families. Now we are. And so this is almost like a wartime demand on civilians. It's kind of like a kind of conscription, but that's how I see it. This is likely to undermine globalism and individualism forever. The ability to bond to a family group or be loyal to some group that you might move to will be much more important in the future than it has been recently, which is why the identitarian left is so effective right now. Individual initiative might be blunted, by national service expectations. So it might be much less likely in the future that a teenager could come up with a tracking website, would have the freedom to even be allowed to do that without some sort of equalizing national service first to make the person much more level with other people and much more socially experienced. That may be where we're headed. So there's much more but ironically much more tribalism. People will wind up being expected to bond to their own. So we may have unintentional segregation and unintentional, polarization again into ethnic groups and so forth. That's a real risk of where we are. The American people seem to be badly weakened and kind of flat on our backs from this epidemic, particularly with the explosion of cases in the Sun Belt and the red states in the past couple of weeks. So this could invite enemies, maybe for other kinds of attacks. That's something I would worry about. COVID, if you think about it, could have made a good communist weapon if somebody wanted to weaken American society so that it could be taken over. I mean, it sounds like a science fiction scenario, and we can't prove that it happened. We don't know exactly what happened still yet. And we need to find out exactly where this virus came from once and for all. We really need to get the evidence down as to exactly what happened.